Here's a subject. The cars that I've owned in my entire life, throughout my entire life, the cars that I've owned. Yeah. Mouth is going dry, so time for some lubrication, man. Yeah. So here's cars that I've owned. I mean, who am I? I'm not no authority on giving advice to podcasters, but I think I can talk. I think I can talk anyway. I think I can get away with it. My advice to podcasters, and I'm always learning stuff when I watch my own videos back. Some may say that's a narcissistic tendency, but hey, come on. I mean, this traffic. My advice to podcasters: have a subject matter. Today's a good day. I'm thinking about quite a few things. And one thing that I didn't want to talk about, for example, let's talk about all the cars that I've owned from the point that I held my license to the present day. So the first car that I ever drove was a BMW 316i. That's the first car that I ever owned. Was a BMW 316i. And now, so that's the first car. It was an automatic. It was an automatic car that basically it was an automatic car that I owned. And I didn't own it. I drove it in a straight line. I drove the BMW in a straight line down a road with my mate. Back in the days. Then the second car I drove was my sister's Toyota Corolla, and I remember that being stolen outside our house. She woke up one morning to go to work. Those were the good old days where you could drive into the city, no congestion charge. And she woke up and the car had just disappeared, and so she reported it. And actually, to be honest with you, I can't recollect what car she had. I took 4 attempts to pass my driving test. 4 attempts, and I'm now a driving instructor. No less. Can you believe that? My younger brother passed first time round. My older brother passed first time round. So I think whilst at university, I had my sister, bless her soul. If you're watching, sis, you always are watching. She brought me a Mini off one of her work colleagues, and I was a big boy, and the seats were awful. They were like rigid seats. You had to like if that's the seat that you sit in. Say you sit in the seat like that with your back up like that. The seats used to come forward like this, so you couldn't bring the rake of the seat forward like that. It was a 2-door car, yeah. It was a P-Reg. Now we denote cars by like the first 2 letters are obviously alpha, and the second 2 letters are the month and the year the car is made in. So if you get EF67, 6 month, which is June, and the year is 2017, so we know it's a 2017 plate. But the P-Reg, it was a P-Reg Mini. It was a rust bucket. I remember in the winter I had to put a blanket over the engine. Can you believe this? A blanket. And if my mate's watching this video, I had to put a bloody blanket over the engine to make sure that the car would start in the morning, so I wouldn't get damp start problems. And I remember on one fateful drive, the brakes failed. I kid you not. This is a German car. The brakes aren't failing on this. Trust me, baby. The damn brakes failed. I go to my mate. We were driving, went past Hangley and Jarratree, and I go on our way to uni, and I go, bruv. He goes, we used to call it Sweet Pea, by the way, as a P-Reg. Sweet Pea is the sweet car to drive. The joke of a car to drive. I went to Bristol in that car. Bristol, believe it or not. And oh god, it was an orange Mini. I think it started off its life as a red Mini, and by the time I owned it, it had faded. The color had faded so much it became orange. Let's get from these lights. Green. And so yeah, it became orange eventually, or fire red. Anyway, so yeah, so that I was at university, I think 1996, 97, I can't remember. Yeah, around that time, maybe earlier. God, I can't remember. Anyway, so parking was free in and around London during those times, and so yeah, I was at university, and so that was kind of cool, driving that car around. But there were so many mechanical issues with it. It was a rust bucket. I mean, you could knock it. This is a solid car, and if you knocked it out, it's like, you know, like when something's rusted and it becomes like a film of rust, and there's no metal left. It's just rusting, dilapidated. It was terrible in that respect. And you could, like, if you hit it hard enough, you could get your fist through there. Cars is something that I've grown to love. I was never a car fanatic, and I don't think I still am a car fanatic. Let me just turn this AC off. I've had to turn the cold air conditioning on to cool the phone down. Can you believe that? Let me just leave it on for a little while. So yeah, definitely, guys, if you're gonna start doing podcasts and you want to make them entertaining, think about things that, you know, invigorate you, you know, that you feel enthusiastic about, like cars, for example. Yeah. And so I had a Vauxhall Corsa. I had an older one, an R-Edge Vauxhall Corsa, and I had a newer one. I had a 2014 plate Vauxhall Corsa as well. And then I got my hands on a German car whilst working for Brent Council, Zip cars. I used to take them out for home visits when I was a housing officer. To just conclude this thing really, really quickly, I used to take those cars out for home visits, and you were given the Zip app. You'd scan your phone to, like, probably just here where the sensor was, the Zip sensor. You used to unlock the car, get the key from the dashboard, and I was spoiled with every car: the Vauxhall Ampera, the Vauxhall Corsa, the Fiesta, the Focus, a Renault Clio, the Golf, an Audi A3, and one by one. Thank you, Brent Council, for this, by the way. This is just prior to leaving. We had to go out and do our home visits in Brent Council cars, because we realised that if we used our own cars, though we were being paid for the fuel, the insurance wasn't valid for work purposes. If you've got a domestic insurance policy, it's not valid for, it allows you to travel back and forward from work, but it's not valid for work related purposes, such as home visits to clients' premises. So yeah, we were told to use cars that we were insured on, and so I started using the Zip cars. And after a while, I had a chance to drive every car, and my go-to car became the Golf. And I thought, wow, look at the infotainment system, look at the digital display, look at the steering. And I wonder, Jeremy Clarkson says that this is the go-to car. This is all things to all people. This car is all things to, it really is. I can't disagree more. And I remember that car. It was a solid driving experience, and I'm driving one right now. Identical build, newer than the one that I was using at Brent Council as a Zip car. And I thought, let's test this car out. So I used to fill it up with a whole lot of shopping, dump the shopping in the back. It took load really properly. I used to swing it around. Right, this car has got some fantastic road holding. Remember, the Golf came out in 1973, a year after I was born. We are in the 9th generation, the 9th series of Golf. It's such a successful car. They have sold over 32 million, 31 million Golfs worldwide. It's their flagship vehicle, Volkswagen's flagship vehicle. Absolutely outstanding. I cannot speak more highly of it. So my manual work car is the Golf manual 1.6 TDI. This guy is driving down a one-way. Can you believe this guy? Look at this guy just rolling down a one-way. Look at this board. Just look at it. It's a one-way. People are horning him. He's being horned. It's being horned from behind. Anyway, so the Golf. If you want to get a proper car, get your hands on a German car. Any German car, BMW, Mercedes, Golf. Buy once, you won't need to. You know, these cars are absolutely outstanding. The clutch is robust. Let me give you an idea of how crap a clutch is on a Corsa. I had to change that clutch from brand new at 22,000 miles. 22,000 miles. I then changed the clutch at 15,000 miles. I had to put two clutches in that car. This car, original clutch, 44,488 miles, and it feels fantastic. So the go-to car, guys, if you can afford to get a good car, get hold of a Golf. My advice is get hold of the Golf. Absolutely outstanding vehicle, outstanding vehicle. The infotainment system, the steering, the road holding, the tires, the electronic handbrake, e-handbrake, the gearbox, silky smooth gearbox. The Vauxhall Corsa felt like you were moving a skeleton around, someone's skeleton. In the biology labs at school, there was a skeleton, and you always used to touch it and prod it and poke it. It feels like a bag of bones, literally, like you're trying to move a bag of bones around. You know, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Definitely get your hands on the Golf, guys. The new Golf. They're quite pricey, but I remember buying the Vauxhall Corsa brand spanking new. You know, like £14,000, and I bought this for 14,000 as well, and it was 4 months old, 5 months old. And I would rather buy a 1-year-old Golf as opposed to a crappy British car, I'm sorry to say. And realize that the Vauxhall Corsa was produced in Spain or Poland, so not essentially British. But listen, guys, just to give you an idea of what one can speak about, this is like 6 minutes, 2 6-minute segments, 8-minute, 10-minute segments of speaking about the cars that I've owned and my experiences. So you can always find stuff to speak about. Before you do a damn podcast, know your subject matter, think of things to speak about. Mopeds, I could have spoken about my moped that I own. It's a 2012 plate. Anyway, listen, I've got not really much more to say. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've got 1.5 hours on the turbo trainer now, so I'm going to go and bust that out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.